What's up guys? Welcome back to the channel Hand Waving. Your friend Naruto Addict 2.0 is here again with a brand new Naruto fanfic that's going to change everything. A story where Naruto is betrayed and banished. But destiny has bigger plans for him. From exile to emperor, this is the journey of power, strategy, and love. Today's fanfic is titled, What If Naruto Became the King of Pokégirls? Naruto X Pokemon Crossover, Part 2. After finishing their morning training, Travis and Beatrice headed to the kitchen planning for a quick snack when Travis's comlink beeped. Opening up, the familiar face of Candace popped into view. Travis, hurry to the Poke Center. You're the strongest tamer around here and there is an emergency that needs your help. After Travis had encountered Naruto in the Frost Whelp, he had thrown himself into the training after seeing how utterly inadequate both he and Beatrice were. In the course of their training, Beatrice had evolved into an Ivyhore and was now a respectable level 43, making him the strongest tamer in town. When he reached the Poke Center, he saw that he was not the only tamer there. In fact, it seemed like every tamer in town was gathered here. Standing on his toes, he searched for a mop of spiky blonde hair but failed to find Naruto. It was not that surprising though, after the day where Naruto had explained a little about to his Travis, he had seen neither hide nor hair of the blonde shinobi. Pushing through the crowd to reach the reception counter, he found Candace talking to the town mayor, unusually flustered. The moment she caught sight of Travis, Candace motioned for Travis to come forward. So this was the tamer you were talking about then, Candace? Asked the town mayor genially. When the nurse Joy nodded, the mayor faced Travis and spoke gravely. I will not mince words here. You do not need to hear them. The thing is, a wounded traveler reached the Poke Center yesterday, seeking treatment. When he had recovered enough to speak, he told us that he was beset by a group of vampires and vampiras. Travis paled when he heard that. There had been a den of some vampire and their vampiras deep within the heart of the forest, but they had only appeared occasionally to feed on some blood. Their victim was always returned to the road that he was on with less blood than he had originally, but he was otherwise fine. They had never before shown such aggression. That was not the worst part. According to the traveler, there were at least 100 vampiras present. He only managed to escape as the vampires and vampiras were too busy feeding to notice him sneaking away. Travis blanched. A vampire of average skill was able to control up to 10 vampiras before she lost control. 100 vampiras would mean an additional 10 vampires or an exceptionally powerful vampire, both of which were equally scary thoughts. Looking around him, Travis's heart sank. All of the tamers were immature rookies, concentrating on only taming their Pokégirls and not training them. Therefore, none of their Pokégirls were even higher than level 10. Even Beatrice would not be able to take on so many vampiras and vampires. It seemed like Aberdeen was doomed. Wait a minute. There was still one last hope. Sir, I am afraid that even with my capabilities, 100 vampiras and the vampires controlling them would be too much for me. In fact, that would be too much for almost anyone. The mayors fell at this news. However, I do know of someone who would be able to turn the tides for us. I will go and contact him now with your permission. The mayor's face immediately brightened. Yes, go immediately. I hope this person, whoever he is, agrees to help us. Travis nodded and headed out of the Poke Center where it was less noisy. It was time to contact a certain shinobi. So, you are telling me that you suspect the vampires and their vampiras will attack tonight since it is a full moon tonight and the vampires are strongest then? When Travis nodded in response to Naruto's question, Naruto continued. And you are also telling me that other than you or me, no one is combat ready? Once again Travis nodded. That means that only you and I, who each have only one Pokégirl, are going to face off against a group of 100 vampiras and maybe 10 vampires. Travis nodded again, but this time he felt fear clenching his heart. When Naruto put it that way, his idea seemed utterly suicidal. Travis might be willing to risk his life for the sake of his hometown, but Naruto had absolutely no ties to Aberdeen and had no reason whatsoever to risk his neck to save Aberdeen. Suddenly, Naruto broke into a broad smile. I like it. Sounds a lot like my old plans. Travis stared at Naruto, flabbergasted. He actually did things like this on a regular basis. Suddenly, he chuckled out loud. It seems like the town might stand a chance after all, as the number one most surprising ninja was here with them. Releasing Beatrice from her Pokeball, Travis got her up to date on what was going to happen while Naruto did the same with Riley. Beatrice was shocked before she became as determined as Travis to protect the town. They noticed with amusement that Riley on the other hand seemed exasperated with Naruto, as though something this insane was something that happened regularly. Knowing Naruto, there were definite possibilities of that. The moment he had finished briefing Riley, he returned her to her Pokeball. When Travis asked him why he had done that, Naruto replied with a, "We had just finished our training. If we are going to win, then Riley needs to recover her strength, and the best way is by resting inside a Pokeball." Travis nodded. He had forgotten that not every Pokégirl was like Beatrice and could recover just by being in the sun. Naruto looked at Beatrice and noticed that there was something different about her. First of all, the dark green patches on her skin had disappeared. Added to that, the bulb growing on her lower back was bigger and the first layer of petals had opened. Finally, her, already huge to begin hand, had become bigger. Scanning her dutifully like a rookie tamer, Naruto read her info. Beatrice, level 43. IVY Hor, the enhancing plant Pokégirl. Type: near human. Element: plant poison. Frequency: common to uncommon. Diet: sunlight, water, nutrients through soil. Role: arousing other Pokégirls, soil regeneration, subduing feral Pokégirls, body modification. Strong Vs: electric, plant, water, rock, fighting. Weak Vs: psychic, fire, flying, ice. Libido: average to high, sunlight based. Attacks: vine whip, razor leaf, leech seed, lust dust, vine bondage, sleep powder, bloom. Enhancements: solar healing. Evolves: Venusaur orgasm. Evolves from normal. After a has acquired enough experience, she will evolve into her next form, Ivyhor. Most of Ivyhor's powers, abilities, and drawbacks remain unchanged from her previous form, since unlike most other Pokégirls, the evolution doesn't radically alter this Pokégirl all that much. The most noticeable changes are that the bulb on her back has grown, with the first layer of petals opening, though it does not yet bloom, and that her bust has increased. No Ivyhor has anything less than D cup, and they're often larger. At this point, wearing anything on her chest becomes very difficult, since even most elastic coverings would be stretched thin, making them form-fitting and uncomfortable, not to mention blocking the sun from their skin. Most of the deeper green markings fade away with this transformation as well. Ivyhor has most of the same attacks as her previous form. However, with her bulb growing, she is able to make new poison powders. Her sleep powder affects anyone it hits, making them slumber, and is a very convenient way to capture new Pokégirls. She also has the ability to make bloom powder. This powder only works on females, be they human or Pokégirl. Bloom powder makes the bust of any female it hits grow larger. With how much larger is dependent on how much they are hit with. Only other Ivyhors and Venusaurs, as well as types that can withstand poison, are not affected by this. An Ivyhor can make two different types of bloom powder: temporary and permanent. Temporary bloom powder is much easier to make, and can be created virtually at will by an Ivyhor. She usually tosses large amounts at opponents, letting their suddenly grown gigantic pin them down. Temporary bloom powder rarely lasts more than an hour. Making permanent bloom powder is much more difficult, requiring a longer time to synthesize, only letting her throw this type of powder roughly once a week. An Ivyhor always knows just how much powder to throw to increase a female's bust by a certain amount. This type is usually used on Pokégirls that an Ivyhor's master wants to be chestier. An Ivyhor that is allowed to bathe in the sun heals faster than to the point where she can heal all but the most grievous damage after roughly a full day of nothing but laying in direct sunlight. Of course, this also nourishes the soil to a great degree. Feral ivy whores are more dangerous to surrounding Pokégirls and human women, since in addition to tossing lust dust at random, they also use bloom powder liberally. Most of the time it's temporary, but every now and then there are stories of women who permanently developed mammoth mammaries due to a feral ivy whore, or Venice whore. It's very uncommon, but not unknown, for a threshold girl to become an ivy whore directly. That would explain Beatrice's changes. She had evolved in the 3 months that he had been training Riley. Impressive Travis, gaining 28 levels in a period of 3 months and even causing Beatrice to evolve. Naruto remarked. Travis smirked back at him. I don't care if Riley started out as a higher level than Beatrice. There is no way that Riley will beat us easily. Naruto only replied with a cryptic, maybe, as he settled down to wait for nightfall. Naruto and Travis stood in front of the forest that the vampires and the vampiras were supposed to emerge from. A few meters behind them were the rookie tamers, ready to mount a last-ditch defense should Naruto and Travis fail. Also with them were a few priests that would be able to support them with their holy prayers. Being of a more evil breed to Pokégirls, the holy prayers would be able to damage and even kill them. Suddenly, a horde of Pokégirls swarmed out of the forests, and upon seeing the 2 tamers, they immediately attacked the 2 tamers. Naruto moved out of the way of several dark bombs and let them explode them on the ground harmlessly. He had not released Riley as he was still waiting for a good opportunity. Travis on the other hand had already released Beatrice from her Pokeball when they had arrived at the forest. Seeing the feral Pokégirl swarm towards the 2 tamers, Beatrice unleashed a storm of razor leaves. Seeing as the feral Pokégirls were so closely packed together, not a single razor leaf. Meanwhile, she used her vine whip to bat dark bombs away from Travis. Naruto had shown that he could take care of himself by dodging the dark bombs with such ease that Beatrice felt as clumsy as the elephants that existed before the Sukebe incident in comparison. Dodging yet another dark bomb, he threw a kunai in the direction that the dark bomb had come from and was rewarded with a cry of pain. He then backflipped to avoid a dark blade attack. The vampiras were everywhere. Scanning yet another Pokégirl, he cursed as it turned out to be another vampira. Vampira, aka Batgirl, the Night Flyer Pokégirl. Type: Near Human. Element: Dark, Flying. Frequency: Rare. Diet: Human-style food, with occasional blood or vitamin supplements. Role: Uncommon Pokégirl type, makes an excellent night security guard. Libido: Average. Strong Vs: Bug, Dark, Fighting, Ghost, Ground, Plant, Psychic. Weak Vs: Electric, Ice, Rock. Attacks: Claw, Dark Blade, Dark Bomb, Drain, Kick, Tackle, Wing Attack. Weaknesses: Torpid during the day. Enhancements: Enhanced Strength x4 Elemental Affinity. Dark, Altered Digestive System, Night Vision, Ability to cling to walls and vertical surfaces, Low Melanin Level. Evolves: None. Evolves from Goth Dark Stone. Vampira are one of the evolved forms of the Goth Pokégirl. It is hard to tell a vampira from a goth since she appears just like the wannabe vampire or makeup artist subtype, except she doesn't need makeup to appear pale, since all vampiras have very pale skin which never tans no matter how much sun she gets. No matter what else she is wearing, a vampira will always have what appears to be a black cloak. This is in fact a pair of bat wings, and although vampiras are not the fastest flyers, they are maneuverable and their strength allows them to carry a human or Pokégirl for a short time. The other difference between a goth and a vampira is her teeth. A vampira has long canine teeth which she uses to perform her drain attack and to draw the blood which she needs to feed upon. Vampira mostly eat a normal human diet, however they are unable to extract some vitamins from normal food and must consume either vitamin supplements or blood once a week to avoid growing ill. Vampira prefer blood when they can get it but can survive on supplements indefinitely, but a vampira with a tamer will insist on drinking his blood at least once a month. This is considered an act of great intimacy by the vampira and will always be the prelude to a taming session. Vampira can now use Dark Blade, and this combined with their more functional claws, greater strength and the ability to use drain to weaken their opponent and restore their own strength makes them excellent close-in fighters. Vampira prefer to rest during the day and most spend the day in their Pokeball asleep. They are often used by tamers to guard their camp at night since they have excellent night vision and are much more active at night. This has also led to many Vampira being employed as night security guards. Vampira have a low feral state, becoming even more brooding than normal and almost totally nocturnal, only being active during the day if absolutely necessary. They are usually not dangerous since they are solitary and will only attack a human should they be desperate for blood, and the amount of blood that they will drain in an attack is not life-threatening. In fact, anyone attacked by a solitary Vampira is advised to not resist and just allow the Vampira to drink their blood since she will become aroused and they can then initiate a taming session and capture her. There is one exception to this, however. Feral Vampira who encounter a vampire will seek to follow her and become her servant. In fact, feral Vampira can sense when a vampire is near and have a rough idea as to which direction she is in. The exact range at which a Vampira can detect a vampire varies depending on the levels of both the vampire and the Vampira, but is usually between 1 to 3 km. Should the vampire be a tame one, then this causes few problems, with the Vampira joining the vampire's harem. Much more dangerous are those Vampira who encounter feral vampires. They will seek to serve their mistress, often being used to bring her victims for her to feast upon. A group of feral Vampira is a sure sign that a vampire is in the area, and anyone who is attacked by more than one Vampira is advised to escape and report the attack to the authorities immediately. Tamed Vampira do not suffer from this weakness and lose the ability to sense when vampires are in the area. In fact, tamed Vampira both fear and despise feral vampires and will seek to have them captured or killed when they encounter them, since they have no desire to be forced to turn feral and become the vampire's slave. They are not actively hostile towards tamed vampires but are slow to trust them until they have gotten to know them. Human girls thresholding into Vampira are very rare and usually handle the change well given the Vampira's somewhat brooding personality. Channeling some chakra to his eyes so that he could see better in the dark, he cursed as he failed to find the vampires controlling the Vampiras. After a few more tries, he finally hit the jackpot. Vampire, the blood-sucking Pokégirl. Type: very near human. Element: ghost magic. Frequency: rare, Crimson League, very rare, elsewhere. Diet: blood. Role: hunters. Libido: high. Strong Vs: bug, fighting, ground, ghost, magic, plant, poison, psychic, infernal. Weak Vs: dark, electric, ice, celestial, solar-based attacks. Attacks: vampire bite, drain, invis all levels, nightshade, phase, illusion, fear aura, mega drain, dark shield, cocoon of darkness, dark mist, dark matter, blood blade, vampiric touch, ghost blade, nightmare syndrome. Enhancements: enhanced speed x4, enhanced strength x4, enhanced endurance x4, enhanced durability x4, enhanced healing x3, darkness affinity, constant ashen wings and dark goggles effect, light transformation and illusionary capabilities. Evolves: Redeemer, Blessed Vampire, Battle Stress, Savamp, Moon Shard. Evolves from humans, Dark-type Pokégirls or Amazon-type Pokégirls, infected through bite. Bounty, for confirmed kill, 200,000 SLC, applies to ferals only. Bounty, for reporting sighting and getting out alive, 57,000 SLC, applies to ferals only. Bounty, for successful capture and taming, 57,500 SLC, applies to ferals only. Recommendation: if you see one, before anything is done, be certain that the vampire is indeed a feral one. Observe it, trying if at all possible to stay out of its way. The difference between a feral vampire and a tamed vampire is very subtle. If the vampire seems even remotely animalistic in nature, then evacuate immediately, making sure to have a fighting-type Pokégirl at the ready if you are spotted. If you are spotted, be prepared to kill the vampire as its bite is potentially lethal and has the potential to infect you or your Pokégirls, resulting in a transformation into a vampire. Applies to ferals only. Vampires were one of the few species of non-infernals that campaigned with the Legions of Terror during the war. Their presence alone was enough to inspire fear in the populace, and since Sukbi's research had yielded that humans could be converted to vampires and forced into service with the Legion, they were considered to be even more terrifying. Human in appearance, save for their pale skin and more pointed than normal canine teeth, they were easily capable of blending in with humanity. While sunlight didn't kill them, as it normally would with vampires in the old stories, they were weakened severely by the sun and generally stayed inactive until nighttime. This made it easier to catch and tame vampires, however, doing so guarantees that the vampire will never have any respect for you. Catching a feral vampire at night, and especially at a full moon, when their powers are at their strongest, and you guarantee a loyal, cooperative vampire in your harem. Vampires have a variety of fearsome abilities. They can transform into pre-Sukebe creatures such as rats or bats, more powerful vampires being able to change into swarms of these creatures. They can also transform into mist for silent movement through an area, remaining aware of their entire surroundings when transformed and capable of reforming at any time. They can pass through walls and turn invisible, and manipulate dark energy to their own ends. They are fierce, savage fighters when feral, losing all of their complex abilities except for much lessened invisibility powers and natural flight. When tame, their tactics change, as they tend to favor a combination of intimidation and evasive tactics, using illusions and trickery to basically terrify the opponent into defeating themselves. They can turn up to one other person invisible as well as phase them through a wall, but only if they are completely tangible and/or visible before grabbing someone and using the ability. Having a vampire in your harem is not recommended, but doing so shows that you have the patience, diligence, and willingness to do what is necessary for your girls to be happy. Vampires need only one thing to survive: blood. If a tamer is willing to let their vampire feed from them, just enough for the vampire's needs to suffice, then they guarantee loyalty from their vampire. It's best to let them stay in their Pokeball until nighttime, as they become severely weak during the day and cannot take pleasure from any sort of physical act, making taming useless. In official Pokégirl battles, it is forbidden to use solar attacks on them, as it is potentially fatal to them. Vampires can secrete a chemical substance through the hollow canines they use to feed. This chemical is what triggers the change into a vampire. Males turn female before their transformation. To tell the difference from a normal feeding bite and an infected bite, looking for greenish-yellow foam around the wound. A vampiric infection can be treated and cured within 7 days of the bite via white magic and careful medical treatment, but by the 8th day, the effects are irreversible. Due to the nature of how vampires are formed, no cases of threshold have been recorded, or are believed to be even possible. Note that ferals are far more dangerous to travelers than tame vampires. Tame vampires have a strong sense of dignity and are far more likely to be polite to people they meet. They will also never drink more than they need to survive. Ferals are savage, and will drink even when they aren't thirsty. They also have less control over their bodies and are far more likely to accidentally infect someone with a vampiric transformation virus. Feral vampires also command feral vampira, a breed that tame vampires look down on with derision and amusement, as they are moderately useful to their purposes. He immediately memorized how the vampire looked in contrast to the vampiras. The vampires had lighter hair than the vampiras, although it was very difficult to see in the dark. Both the vampiras and vampires wore skin-tight leather full-body suits that conformed to their figure nicely. Both vampires and vampira were very pale in complexion. Although both species' lips were black, the vampira's lips were a bit glossier. The vampires' pupils were slit-like in shape, probably due to the effect of the night goggles. Finally, their wings were the same. No, Naruto corrected himself. The vampires' wings were actually more opaque than the vampiras. All in all, it would be nigh impossible to differentiate between the two in the night, as the differences were minuscule at best. Tossing the Pokeball containing Riley at the vampire, he waited until it was 20 centimeters away from the vampire. He tossed a kunai at the Pokeball. When the Pokeball was right in front of the vampire, the blunt end of the kunai that Naruto had thrown hit the button on the Pokeball, releasing Riley. Riley, Blizzard now. Naruto cried out the moment Riley was out of the Pokeball. Is that guy a retard or something? There is no way a starter Pokegirl can perform. Blizzard, a random rookie tamer cried out before he stopped to gape at the spectacle in front of him. It started off a small drop in temperature. Wind then swirled around Riley before picking in intensity. The temperature suddenly dropped drastically and tiny slivers of ice were mixed in with the wind around Riley. Riley poured in the required energy to complete the technique and the swirling wind suddenly expanded to engulf the whole battlefield, roaring all the while. The slivers increased in size and numbers and then within seconds, a full-scale blizzard was tearing through the feral Pokégirls. Travis immediately scanned Riley with his Pokédex and his eyes immediately bugged out. Level 68. How the hell did you level her up by 43 levels in just 3 months? The vampire next to Riley stood no chance. Riley was in the center of the whole storm, which was the area that the most damage most dealt. Being in such close range added to the vampire's weakness to ice resulted in an instant death for the vampire. Meanwhile, the vampiras that had been under the vampire's control suddenly regained control of themselves. Confused at what was going on, they struck out blindly, killing many of their own before they were brought under control by another vampire. However, the vampire was not the only casualty. Every Pokegirl that was within 5 meters of Riley died due to the blizzard. Added to that, the tamers immediately took advantage of the chaos that Riley's blizzard had wreaked and released their Pokegirls. Even with their low levels, they were able to kill off quite a few vampiras before the feral Pokegirls regained their equilibrium. Beatrice had also taken advantage of the opening presented. Using a vine whip to place Travis with the other tamers where it was safer, Beatrice unleashed Razor Leaf after Razor Leaf and managed to kill off another vampire by luck. Finally, Riley ran out of energy and slumped to the ground, utterly exhausted. The blizzard as a result stopped. Using a kunai to slice off the head of a vampira that was attempting to attack the hapless Riley, he wrapped an exploding tag around a kunai and threw it into the middle of a group of vampiras. Watching the reactions of the feral Pokegirls carefully, he noticed one Pokegirl that did not flinch when the light from the explosion hit her eyes. Knowing that the night goggles skill prevented the Pokegirl from being affected by a sudden burst of light in the night, Naruto concluded that the Pokegirl was a vampire. Picking up Riley with one hand, he threw a kunai at the vampire and watched as it blossomed in the vampire's chest before sprinting to the sidelines where it was safer. Laying Riley down, he spoke to her in a stern tone. That blizzard was wonderful. It may have turned the tides for us. I want you to rest here until you regain your energy. Do not enter the battlefield until you are sure that you have at least enough energy for 2 ice beams. Nodding weakly, Riley agreed to follow her master's orders. While she had managed to manipulate the ice element on her own, it still took an insane amount of energy and concentration to do so. Unless she was using an attack that had already been granted to her, she could only fire off a few attacks before she ran out of energy. Riley looked at the tamers and the priests beside her. If they were not here, the battle would have ended a long while ago. Because Naruto needed to keep his past a secret, he could not use any jutsus and was limited to only his taijutsu. Luckily, the exploding tags could be explained off as a special kind of grenade. If Naruto ran around shooting off fireballs everywhere, there was no doubt that scientists would immediately swarm to like bees to honey, waiting to cut him up and see how he ticked. Riley looked on worriedly as Naruto entered the fray once again. However, for now she could only look at him and pray for his safety until she regained her strength. Naruto did a quick head count while he beheaded one of the vampiras that had tried to sneak up on him. According to Travis, a vampire of average ability would be able to control up to 10 vampiras. That would make for 10 vampires. Since 3 vampires had been killed, that would leave only 7. However, Naruto's instincts told him that there were less than 7. He had noticed that after the vampires had been killed, the vampiras that they had been controlling were brought back under control. However, this process of regaining control took quite some time, which showed that it was not another vampire waiting in reserve. What it suggested, though, was that there was a vampire out there that was strong enough to control above 20 vampiras. Assuming that this vampire had the ability to control up to 30 vampiras, that would mean that there were only 5 more vampires left. Counting the number of vampiras still alive, he grimaced as he realized that they still had 30+ vampiras left to contend with. Checking on the status of his allies, he found the rookie tamers and their Pokégirls huddled at the back, the Pokégirls obviously trying to defend their tamers from any vampiras that made it, though the priests and Beatrice. Beatrice, on the other hand, looked half dead. She was likely running on purely willpower now. Naruto estimated that she would be able to take only another 5 more vampiras before she collapsed. Thank goodness the vampiras were of a low level. If they had been higher than level 20, Naruto would probably have been forced to use his jutsus. Releasing his gravity seals, Naruto instantly felt a whole lot lighter. Dashing towards Beatrice, he killed any vampiras that were in his way. When Beatrice finally collapsed, he wanted to be there to prevent her from being killed. Under a dark blade, he came up under the vampira's guard and snapped a kick to her chin, breaking her neck instantly. Spinning away from a dark bomb, Naruto used the momentum from the spin to slam his kunai into the back of the skull of another vampira. Flipping away, he activated the exploding tag that he had slapped onto the kunai and watched as the explosion killed 6 ferals that had surrounded the spot where he used to be. From the ensuing chaos, he deduced that one of those killed was a vampire and grinned. Pulling out 2 kunais so that he held 2 in each hand, he dashed forward and slit the throat of one vampira that had regained control of her senses. He dodged a claw attack that cut off a bit of his hair. Performing a leg sweep on the vampira, he beheaded her as she fell and flung his kunai at a vampira that had attempted to sneak up on Beatrice. Meanwhile, Beatrice used a bloom attack to cause some of the ferals to drop to the ground, unable to get up due to their unnaturally huge, before using a razor leaf to finish them off. Again, some vampiras regained control of their senses, indicating that another vampire had been killed. That left 3 more vampires and 13 more vampiras to go. Naruto grinned as Riley moved to stand beside. They had quite a high chance to win now. Unfortunately, Beatrice chose this moment to lose consciousness. Quickly ordering Riley to bring Beatrice back to safety, Naruto started to battle again. Naruto cursed as it seemed like the remaining vampires had finally gotten smarter. Instead of simply commanding the vampiras to dogpile the shinobi, the vampiras had taken to the skies and attacked from above. Added to that, the dark bombs that descended on him were actually timed and not the random chaotic explosions that they had been earlier. Taking stock of his inventory, Naruto cursed as he saw that he had only less than 10 kunais left and absolutely no shuriken in all. He had forgotten to seal some shuriken into the scroll. He had a plan, but it required Riley to work. As though summoned by his thoughts, Riley suddenly appeared beside him. Naruto quickly whispered the beginning of a plan to her while both Pokégirl and Master dodged attacks. I want you to jump up to a tree and use it as a launching pad to strike at some vampiras. Use only your basic attacks. I will attempt to herd them with the rest of my kunai and explosion tags. When the opportunity arises, I want you to use an ice beam to group all of the remaining ferals into one big group. Then, you shall use your last ice beam attack and I shall use the last of my explosives to wipe them out. Nodding in understanding, Riley set off to execute her master's plans. Find a tall tree to use as a launching pad. Riley ran up the trunk of the tree, using her claws to gain purchase. Finally, she reached the top of the tree and launched herself at a vampira, her frost slash creating deep biting gashes in the feral's side, eliciting a cry of pain. Twisting herself in midair to avoid the returning claw attack, Riley used a tail whip to smash a vampira who had tried to sneak up on her away. Looking down, she saw another vampira flying up towards, charging a dark bomb in the process, attempting to fry the frost whelp at point-blank range. Grabbing the vampira that she had injured originally, she flung the feral bodily in the path of the dark bomb, letting the feral get fried instead. Obeying the laws of physics, Riley's body fell down towards the earth. Using a slash attack as she dropped past the vampira who had attempted to fry her, Riley cut the feral in twain. Grabbing a thick tree branch as she dropped past it, she used her momentum to swing herself upwards and released her grip, sending her flying into the air once again. Meanwhile, Naruto had flung a kunai with an exploding tag to the right of a group of ferals. The ferals immediately tried to split up, but they were stopped by two exploding tags, one to the top and one to the bottom, allowing them to be able to run only to the left. Seeing a good opportunity, Riley fired off an ice beam. While she only managed to kill one vampire, the ice beam did its job as the rest of the Pokégirls huddled together in a group in an attempt to protect themselves, not knowing that was what the duo wanted. Firing off her last ice beam, Riley watched as her attack froze a third of the remaining ferals before landing on the ground immediately. Naruto's last 5 kunais immediately thudded into the frozen Pokégirls before exploding due to the exploding tags wrapped around the kunais. The explosion combined with the huge chunks of ice flying everywhere effectively killed off the rest of the feral Pokégirls. The townspeople gathered were dumbfounded by the feat that the duo had achieved. Slowly, however, the fact that Naruto and Riley had saved their lives sank into their heads and they cheered loudly, moving forward to thank the heroes. They were halted though when a dark blur suddenly streaked towards Riley. Unable to dodge aside in time, Riley could only watch the blur get closer with a look of surprise on her face. Suddenly, the look of surprise changed into a smirk as she summoned a frost armor just before the dark blur impacted. Instead of the normal frost armor, which was simply a layer of ice over the frostwhelp's skin that took quite a long time to form, what formed on Riley's skin was a much thicker layer of ice with sharp, dangerous-looking spikes of ice protruding from the armor that formed instantaneously. With the increase in ice manipulation, Riley found that all of her previous ice attacks could be performed much better and much faster. The dark blur could not stop itself at the speed that it was going and impaled itself on one of the spikes on Riley's frost armor. Moving forward, Naruto saw that it was the last vampire left. When Riley raised her hand, prepared to finish the vampire, Naruto motioned for her to stop. When he was beside her, he explained to her his decision. She may have information that we may need. Feral vampires are very intelligent, so she should be able to speak. She might be the strongest vampire and the commander of this invasion, but this might still be only an advance force to test Aberdeen's defenses. We need to learn if there are any more vampires left in the den, whether they are hostile or not, and if they are, their current strength. Naruto said, taking on a more serious demeanor as his shinobi training took over. Dispel your frost armor, and when she drops top the ground, restrain her immediately. Do not care about being gentle to her. However, I do not want you treating her too roughly unnecessarily as well. Naruto instructed. Naruto knelt down until he was on eye level with the vampire. Now, can you tell me the reason for you attacking this town? When the vampire only hissed in his face, Naruto sighed and continued, I know you can speak, drop the charade. Your invasion has failed. Your sisters and slaves have died. You are the only one left. Might as well cooperate, nay. After glaring at Naruto for a while, the vampire finally answered, albeit in halting sentences. We lived in home, we happy. But human in long white clothes with silver crosses come. They say strange words, hurt us bad. We tell them to stop, but they continue. Many die, my sisters and I run. We gather more slaves, we want kill for our sisters. Naruto was intrigued by what the vampire had said. He detected no trace of lying in her words, which meant that she was telling the truth. However, he knew of only group that wore white robes and carried silver crosses. Looking at the priests gathered before him, he asked them sternly, was what the vampire said true? Did you really attack the vampires without provocation? There can be no way that what the vampire said is true. We are peaceful priests and we would never, the bishop said before he was interrupted by one of the priests. So what if we did? They deserved it. Their presence on this world desecrates the earth that they stand on. By killing them off, we are purifying the land and doing everyone a favor. The priest sneered. Naruto sighed inwardly. He was afraid that things would turn out this way. It seems that no matter which world one was in, humans never got rid of their bigotry. He was utterly disgusted with their actions but showed no hint of it. And may I ask who accompanied you on this glorious quest? Naruto questioned. Riley looked at her master, shocked that he would say such callous words. Proudly, 4 other priests stood out with the original one. Is that all? Naruto asked. When the priests nodded, Naruto stood up and suddenly disappeared from view. 5 sickening cracks pierced the air, and when the crowd turned, they saw the 5 priests dead at Naruto's feet. Why did you kill them? An enraged priest shouted. Sure, they may deserve punishment for going against the words of God, but those are only Pokégirls. They do not deserve death for killing Pokégirls. Naruto's answering glare silenced him. They are not creatures for you to rule over and impose your will on. They are also people and should be treated as such. Naruto growled menacingly as memories of his past flashed through his mind. Kill the demon spawn. You do not deserve to live, you filthy thrash. Why don't you just crawl into a hole and die, dead last? When the priest stepped forward to berate Naruto for his foolishness, he suddenly found himself kissing the dirt with Naruto's foot on his back. This ends now. Naruto snarled at both the priest and the townspeople. The priests chose to take lives willfully and paid with their lives. The vampires chose to take revenge, and now they lay on the ground rotting away. Both parties have paid for their mistakes. Grudges will be forgotten and everyone will start on a clean, lest this results in a vicious cycle of hatred. Picking up one of his kunai on the way, Naruto walked over to the vampire. The last of the perpetrators shall die now, and all foolish grudges shall be erased from memory. Naruto said as he cast a genjutsu over everyone except for Riley and the vampire to make them think that he had killed off the vampire when he had actually created a cage bunchen and carried the vampire off to somewhere safe. I released you because though you did make the wrong choice, it was the only way for you to grieve the death of your sisters. Leave this place and lead a new life. If you attempt to continue on your foolish crusade for revenge, I will hunt you down and kill you myself. The cage bunchen said as it dispelled itself. Naruto was once again in Travis's waiting for his bounty before he left Aberdeen on his journey. Since Naruto and Riley had killed a total of 6 vampires, he got a total bounty of 1,200,000 SLC. While he was elated at no longer having to scam for food and the like, since places with higher technology might see through the illusion, there was something else that dampened his happiness. After the battle, Riley had gotten quite distant from him. In fact, she had seemed as though she was reverting back to feral state. Worried at what was happening to Riley, Naruto had spent the whole night reading up with his Pokédex and had found out some disturbing news. He had found out that a Pokégirl who doesn't get tamed often enough regresses to an animalistic state, called feral. While feral, a Pokégirl cannot think as a human would, and is essentially an animal in mind, making her quite dangerous, although the state may prevent her from using some of her powers. If a Pokégirl gives birth while feral, the result is feralborn Pokégirls. A Pokégirl can be brought back from feral by being tamed by a human. A non-feral Pokégirl cannot bring a feral Pokégirl back by having with her. However, 2 Pokégirls can have with each other to keep from falling into a feral state, but this only works about half as well as with a human. Simple masturbation won't even slow a Pokégirl's descent into feral at all. Most tamers use their Pokégirls to weaken feral Pokégirls, and then capture them in Pokeballs to pacify them, and then release them and tame them. After reading up, he found that he had been utterly misled on what taming meant. Taming, contrary to what he had originally, was not about training. In essence, taming is all about. The process was given a somewhat neutral name so that some people misunderstand what it actually means. Taming is necessary in order for a tamer to develop a relationship with their Pokégirls. Taming must be between 2 or more people, and a Pokégirl cannot tame herself. Most hypotheses say that the taming fulfills some need in the Pokégirl's mind that must be renewed every so often in order for their mind to stay clear. A Pokégirl that isn't tamed often enough will eventually sink into a feral state, losing their intelligence. So long as there is a partner participating in the act, the taming need in a Pokégirl is fulfilled. The partner may be either male or female, it doesn't matter so long as it's human. Two Pokégirls who have not gone feral can even tame each other. However, this works only about half as well as with a human would, resulting in the Pokégirls needing their next taming sooner than usual. A Pokégirl cannot tame a feral Pokégirl, such an act requires a human. Riley had not been tamed since the first time he had encountered her, where a taming cycle had settled the problem for him. That would make 3 months already. While frost whelps generally had a low libido, even 3 months was stretching it a bit. He also suspected that the adrenaline high from the battle yesterday had accelerated her descent into being a feral. Naruto was now in a dilemma. How could he just walk up to Riley and demand for, even if it was to prevent her from turning feral? He knew that other tamers did that, but he would be damned before he ran around acting like an animal in heat. Besides, he still had the bruises from when he had made advances on Sakura when she was younger. He had also seen Jiraiya be sent flying out of a window when he incurred Tsunade's wrath. This had taught him that a woman's fury is nothing to be sneered at. Besides, Riley had an extra tail and claws as well as the ability to freeze his manhood off. After racking his head for an answer, he still could not find the solution to his problem, so he settled on a temporary solution. He would simply keep Riley in her Pokeball until he figured out a solution. When a Pokégirl is inside a Pokeball, she is kept in stasis so she would not turn feral even if inside the Pokeball for 100 years. However, unless the Pokégirl is exhausted, the mind of the Pokégirl remains fully alert. Naruto found it inhumane to subject anyone to such a situation, except for the Kyuubi of course, and resolved to find a solution as soon as possible. After he collected his bounty, God he was so rich, he met Travis in front of the gates of the town where Travis was seeing him off. Hey Travis, do you know of a place where I can get a decent katana? There is no one selling a katana in this town. Naruto asked Travis. He had not sealed in a katana into the Master Scroll, and it greatly irked him since he was cut down to only a quarter of his full fighting abilities without a sword. Well, there's a town named Edge near here which is basically a haven for weapons. Just head down the road and choose the right path when you come to his crossroads. Travis said while Naruto thanked him for his help. Before he left, though, Naruto had one last piece of advice for Travis. Travis, you do know that unless you leave this town, you will soon stagnate, right? No matter how much you train, it cannot be a substitute for actual combat experience. I know that, Naruto. Travis sighed. But it's just that. You cannot bear to leave this town, the place where you grew up, where you experienced all of your happy memories. Naruto continued for Travis. How did you know what I was thinking? Travis asked, shocked that Naruto knew what he was thinking. I experienced the same thing before. Remember when I first left on my training trip with Ero Sennin? I had the exact same feelings you did then. Naruto explained. However, Ero Sennin told me something then that I would never forget. Naruto continued. He asked me whether I would be willing to lay down my life, to protect everyone else from harm. Think of it this way, Naruto, would you rather leave and burden the heartache by yourself or leave another to feel the same heartache that you would? Or worse, when it comes to the crunch, will you be able to bear the guilt of failing to defend your home when you could have gained the strength to protect it? That was what Ero Sennin told me. Naruto finished. I hope you think on what I said. Hope to see you soon. Yane. Naruto said he headed down the road while waving to Travis. Travis stood there, a thoughtful look on his face as he waved back to Naruto. Naruto had finally put things into perspective for him. Releasing Beatrice, he quickly told her, we are leaving on a training trip tomorrow. Pack up all that is necessary. He would gain the strength to protect his home, even if it killed him. When night fell, he found a nice clearing in the woods beside the road and once again performed his Shichuka no Jutsu. Entering the house, Naruto sat at the table as he waited for his Kage Bunshin to finish cooking. When the food arrived, Naruto released Riley from her Pokeball. Although the Pokégirls did not feel hunger when in their Pokeballs, Riley would have most likely gotten used to having 3 meals a day and he did not want to deny her that. However, Riley did not even look at him, and an awkward silence fell over the table as the two ate their meals. Finally, Naruto could take the silence no more and decided to just wing it. Riley, are you alright? Naruto asked while Riley flinched when she was addressed. I am fine. Riley whispered. Naruto frowned. This was more serious than he had thought it to be. When he looked into her eyes, he saw that Riley was hanging on to her sanity by only a thread. Moving forward, he enveloped Riley in a hug, ignoring her struggles to break free. I'm sorry I've been such a bad tamer. Because of my stupidity regarding certain things, I caused you so much trouble. If you want, I will do my best to find a better tamer for you. Naruto apologized while glaring at the book Taming for Dummies that was sitting innocently on a chair. Riley suddenly ceased her struggles and stiffened with shock. No, she cried out loud before covering her mouth in horror. It was getting very hard for her to control her emotions. Naruto grinned in relief. While he would have let her leave if she wanted to, he would not deny that he had gotten close to her and viewed Riley as one of his precious people, and he would be hurt if she left him. That's great. Naruto beamed before he turned sober again. Unfortunately, I realized that some of your more animalistic instincts were coming into play. After some research, I deduced that you are turning feral. Am I right, Riley? When Riley nodded while bowing her head, ashamed of herself, Naruto placed his hand on her chin and lifted her head up. Listen here, Riley. It is not your fault. It is my fault. If I had actually bothered to know what taming actually was, perhaps this would not have happened. Riley's eyes widened in shock. He did not know what taming was. Well, if you still want to stay with me, I suppose I can find someone else to tame you since I've never done this kind of thing before. Naruto said, rushing through the last part of his sentence. Honestly, who on earth would want their daughters to be seen with the Kyuubi brat, let alone have an intimate relationship with him? Besides, he had been utterly focused on brining Sasuke back and killing off Akatsuki and had no time for any other stuff. Riley, however, surprised him by kissing him fully on the lips. When they finally broke apart, Naruto asked, "Are you sure you want this?" Naruto was cut off as Riley replied with another passionate kiss. Naruto woke up at 6 a.m. as per usual. However, there was a strange weight on his chest. Looking down, he saw a mane of white hair splayed on his chest. Suddenly, the memories of last night ran through his mind. Morning, sleepyhead. Naruto said he noticed Riley stirring. If we are going to have a head start, you are going to have to get up now. I still want to have training tonight after dinner. Riley groaned as she snuggled deeper into Naruto's chest. Naruto chuckled at her actions. After the initial barriers had been broken, Riley had become a lot more affectionate. Last warning, Riley, Naruto said. Riley ignored him, tunneling deeper into the bed. Oh well, you brought it on yourself. With that, Naruto pulled the sheets off of Riley, revealing her body. Naruto then kicked her and sent her flying off the bed. Riley got up slowly, growling at Naruto. Be ready to move in 5 minutes or I will triple your gravitational field. That threat sent Riley scampering around the room collecting her clothes before she bolted into the bathroom. Naruto laughed out loud and then sent a Kage Bunshin to do some hunting. These woods were much more plentiful than the forests near Aberdeen. Armed with kunai, the Kage Bunshin should return in 5 minutes tops. Walking into the living room, Naruto waited for the Kage Bunshin to return. The Kage Bunshin returned just as Riley sprinted down the stairs. Ordering the Kage Bunshin to dress and cook the kills, Naruto grabbed Riley as she overshot her destination due to the speed that she was going. The two waited in silence for their meal to be ready. This time, though, the silence was a comfortable one and not the awkward silence it had been last night. Naruto dispelled the Shichuka no Jutsu as Riley exited the wooden house. Turning to Riley, he began explaining to Riley his plans for the day. Since we will be traveling until it gets too dark to see, we will simply have to train on the way. To do this, I will increase your gravitational field by 1 level and then we will sprint for the whole day. This we'll be able to cover a longer distance while still training ourselves. The only break we will take will be for lunch. Now, let's go, Naruto said as he adjusted the seal on Riley's chest. Naruto kept watch while Riley slept off the exhaustion that had come over due to the hard pace in the day and the intense training after dinner. While Cage Bunshin could also keep watch, he much preferred to do it himself. They had been lucky that they had not been attacked yesterday when he was still busy taming Riley. Naruto suddenly received a flood of information as one of his Cage Bunshin he had placed in the woods hinged as a rock dispelled itself, telling him that there was something headed towards their camp. Naruto recognized the scent that wafted to him on the night breeze as one that belonged to the vampire that he had let go. I thought I told you to stop this foolish revenge of yours, Naruto said as the vampire came close enough to hear his words. Startled that the shinobi had spotted her so easily, the vampire dropped down to the ground in front of Naruto. Taking out a kunai, Naruto prepared to kill off the vampire, only halt his movements when the vampire spoke. Wait, I come not to kill you. Well then, why on earth did you come here? Human strong, beat me when I strongest. Please don't tell me you want to test your strength against mine or some bullshit like that. Naruto groaned. This vampire was reminding him more and more of Sasuke. No, I wish to join you. You are strong, can make me strong. That way, my sisters will be happy. Naruto stared at her. I understand your need to appease your dead sisters, but there are other ways to get stronger than simply joining my harem, you know. You are strongest I have seen, was the only reply he got. Naruto sighed. Just as obstinate as Sasuke as well, hallelujah. Very well then, but I need to talk to Riley first. When he saw the vampire's uncomprehending look, he further elaborated, the frost whelp that kicked her ass. This earned a hiss of anger from the vampire. Naruto chuckled. She was apparently as prideful as Sasuke. Why do you ask, Pokégirl? You human, you make decisions. The vampire asked, confused. That may be so for other tamers, but I'm different. Wait for me here. I will be right back. Naruto returned with Riley later, with the latter rubbing the sleep out of her eyes. Riley scrutinized the vampire carefully. Naruto had told her everything that had transpired and she was very pleased that Naruto placed her thoughts so highly in his heart. Well, honestly I don't see a reason why you should not let her join your harem. As evident in the fight, this vampire is very strong. The normal disadvantage of her having to feed on your blood is removed with your freakish healing ability. Riley concluded after a few minutes of thought. Riley noticed though that Naruto seemed mildly disappointed. Is there something wrong, Naruto? Riley asked. Well, you see, since she's a feral that means I will have to tame her. The thing is, I'm already taming you and it seems wrong to tame her as well, Naruto answered nervously. Riley felt happiness swelling inside her. While she knew that sooner or later Naruto would have to start taming other Pokégirls to make his harem stronger, she had not expected Naruto to be so sweet. Don't worry about that. As a Pokégirl, I've already resigned myself to the fact that I will have to share you with other Pokégirls. Riley replied. Naruto nodded hesitantly. Although he was greatly reassured that Riley approved of it, he was still uneasy about having two or more partners. Well then, this is your last chance to back out. Do you still want to join my harem? When the vampire nodded her head, Naruto took out an empty Pokeball that he had gotten from the Poke Center and tossed it at the vampire, watching as it sucked the vampire into the Pokeball. Minutes later, Naruto released the vampire in the living room. From the looks of it, you must have not fed for a long time, Naruto said to the vampire as he placed his arm in front of the vampire. Go ahead and take as much as you want. Do not worry about me, dying of blood loss is impossible for me. Not needing any further encouragement, the vampire sank her canines into the main artery in Naruto's and began feeding greedily. Slurping sounds filled the room for a few minutes before the vampire was fully sated. The vampire looked a lot better now. While her skin still remained pale, it had gained a tinge of a rosy hue. Her eyes now sparkled and her brown was much glossier than it had been. Now that her immediate hunger was sated, the vampire prowled towards him like a predator stalking her prey. She was looking to satisfy a hunger of a different sort. Naruto was unprepared to deal with such aggressiveness in a female and looked towards Riley for help. However, Riley merely smirked at him before heading up to her own room. Naruto panicked and tried to flee. However, he was too late as the vampire pounced on him and began tearing off his clothes. Naruto woke up the next day with his back aching insanely. It was not much of a surprise really, as the vampire had been on top of him the whole night. He really had to think of a name for the vampire. It was really dumb to keep referring to her as the vampire. Thinking hard, he finally came up with the name Vincelet. It had been the name of a female vampire in a novel Ero Sennin had forced him to read once, and he felt that the name suited the vampire. Lifting the vampire up bridal style, Naruto carried her to the couch where she would be more comfortable. Seeing Vincelet's clothes on the floor, Naruto decided that now was as good as any to reinforce her clothing like he had done to Riley's. Riley woke up at 8 a.m., surprised that Naruto had not woken her up earlier. When she reached the living room though, she saw the reason out. Naruto was putting the finishing touches on the vampire's clothes. After the months she had spent with Naruto, she had noticed that whenever Naruto was engrossed in doing something, he zoned out until everything else other than his work was ignored and deemed inconsequential. Riley sat beside Naruto and waited patiently for him to finish his work. When Naruto finally finished, he stretched and heard his joints crack loudly. Looking around, he was slightly startled to see Riley sitting right beside him. He really had to stop zoning out so much. Well, good morning, Riley. Sorry I ignored you. I was kind of engrossed reinforcing Vincelet's clothes. I noticed. Riley replied dryly before she noticed something wrong with what Naruto had said earlier. Wait a minute, Vincelet. Riley asked. Oh, I decided to the vampire that after a vampire that I had read about in a novel. Naruto replied. Riley nodded in approval. It was a nice name. Naruto truly had a talent for choosing new names, hers included. By the way, since you are alpha of the harem, there will be some duties for you to do. Since it was Vincelet's first time being tamed, I want you to help her through the taming shock as quickly as possible. Also, since we will be going slower today in order to accommodate for Vincelet, I want you to make sure that Vincelet's English is up to standard. Any questions? Riley had a question. Why do you not keep Vincelet in her Pokeball? Vampires are after all greatly weakened when they come in direct contact with sunlight. That is precisely why I want Vincelet to travel in the day. There will not be much people who will ambush us on this road. Therefore, I want Vincelet to build up as much immunity to sunlight as possible so that others will not exploit this weakness. Besides, I have a robe ready for Vincelet to put on should things get too difficult for her. Riley nodded in understanding. Naruto had truly planned for everything. Now, go wake Vincelet up, we are setting off soon after breakfast. Riley sighed in relief as she sank into the tub full of hot water, her muscles receiving the relaxation that they needed. The party had been on the road for a week already and it had been a very exhausting period of time. First of all, she had to help Vincelet get over her taming shock. Having never encountered taming shock, it was a very trying experience for her. The first time a Pokégirl is tamed, she undergoes taming shock. This is thought to be due to the mild mental trauma of accepting another as her master, that is, forming an alpha bond, and using their master's mind during taming to fight off the feral state for the first time. Taming shock is a mild condition. The affected Pokégirl can no longer speak in the first or second person, instead referring to herself and others only by pronouns or by name. This condition usually wears off in a few days, though aberrant cases of as little as a few hours and as long as 3 weeks have been reported. It's worth pointing out that even if a girl who isn't a virgin undergoes threshold, she'll still go into taming shock when she's tamed next, since that's her first time as a Pokégirl. It had been hard working with Vincelet as the vampire was very frustrated at the fact that all she could do was repeat her name over and over again. Thankfully, Vincelet was a very intelligent Pokégirl and managed to overcome her taming shock in a day. The next task she had to accomplish was to get Vincelet's English up to scratch. Riley was once again saved by Vincelet's intelligence. All she had to do was correct the few mistakes Vincelet make and teach her proper grammatical structure. Vincelet was now speaking English so fluently as though she had been speaking it since the day she was born. Finally, in a sudden fit of madness, or so Riley claimed, Naruto forced Vincelet and Riley to memorize everything that he had dug out about how the Blue League worked. Her head still hurt from all those words she had been forced to memorize. The Blue League was hit as hard as the rest of the world by the Red Plague and the Bloody Flu but was not devastated by the legendaries. This has meant that the vast majority of the survivors never became refugees. Because of this, the majority of the surviving communities in the Blue League have kept the names that they have had since time immemorial, as the Blue Leaguers have proven once again to be more conservative than much of the rest of the world. Blue League Championship. The Blue League Championship Series competition takes place every 2 years, traditionally right after harvest time in the fall. Each championship series divided up as follows into 2 rounds. First round. County finals are held in the spring and semi-regional competitions are held in the fall. Please note that due to the small population of Wales, there is no semi-regional competition in the Wales region. The first round takes place during odd-numbered years. Second round. Regional competitions are held in the spring and the Blue League Championship in the fall. The second round takes place during even-numbered years. Please note that while challengers may acquire gym badges through battling at any time, if you have not achieved your requisite badges by the start of the county finals during the first round, you are not eligible for that Blue League Championship Series. There are 5 gyms in each of the regions of Scotland, Wales, England and Ireland. Tamers are more than welcome to compete for badges in any gym. However, to qualify for the Blue League Championship Series, a minimum of 3 of your badges must come from the region you reside in and hope to represent. You must reside in the region you wish to represent and you must represent the region you reside in. 5 badges are required for entry into the county finals. At no time will substitutions be allowed. If a tamer is forced to withdraw from the competition at any level, that slot will be declared empty and all contests that would have taken place against that slot will be forfeits. Tamers must compete in the county finals of the county that they reside in. County finals will send the top 5 competitors to the regional final. At the regional competitions, the field of competitors will be narrowed down to 15 tamers per region. These comprise the regional team, sometimes still called the national team. Regional teams will compete in the Blue League Championship. Once the regional competition is over, these tamers have until harvest time to learn to work together. The Blue League Championship has 2 overall winners, the Blue League Champion and the Blue League Cup Championship team. As history has shown, the individual champion does not have to be from the same region as the regional champions. Wales is a good case in point. The Welsh team has never brought home the Blue League Cup, but Welsh tamers have been the Blue League champion no less than 11 times in the 150 years of the Blue League Championship. The Blue League Championship is hosted by each of the regions in rotation and is held in the same arena that is used for the regional competition. The rotation is always Ireland, Scotland, Wales and England. Regional team fan clubs can be found at their respective websites or contact your regional arena for more information. Gyms. The Blue Continent is home to 20 gyms. Each region is responsible for maintaining 5 gyms at all times. Gym locations: Scotland, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Rum Island, Dumfries and Kintyre. Wales, Bangor, Cardiff, Magicunt Village, on the site of the old town of Fishguard, Aberystwyth, Newtown. Ireland, Belfast, Buncrana, Limerick, Dungarvan, Killarney. England, Shrewsbury, Plymouth, Ipswich, York, Coventry. Gym badges. There are 20 gyms in the Blue League, and to distinguish the regional badges, all badges have their background called a field, color-coded by region. English badges have a blue field. Irish badges have a green field. Badges awarded by Welsh gyms have a red field, and the field on Scottish badges is black, in honor of the Black Watch. Each gym is authorized to award 3 levels of badges. The first level is the battling badge. It is awarded for victory in a standard, see Blue League contest rules poke battle. The badge is only awarded for victory in a poke battles that see attacks used in them are only eligible for the battling badge. The Laurel or Ironman badge is only awarded when the tamer wins both a and a poke battle in the same visit, and he or she must participate personally in one or more of the competitions. If any of these conditions are not met, then the Laurel is not authorized to be awarded. Needless to say, the award of a Laurel badge is a special occasion, and gyms often hold a celebration for an award of one. In the history of the Blue League, no one has ever won all 60 badges. Official Blue League battling rules. There is a common misconception held by persons outside the Blue League that official Blue League sanctioned Pokégirl battles that take place within the areas regulated by the Blue League have no rules. Nothing could be farther from the truth. First, the definitions used when challenging within the Blue League will be discussed, and then the actual makeup of a Blue League sanctioned event will be briefly examined. Pokégirl tamers entering the Blue League must register to enter Blue League sanctioned events. Registration may be done at any poke center and is valid for 3-6 years. Registration allows the entry into Blue League sanctioned events and standard Pokédex trainer updates. Registration also grants foreign tamers residency in the region that they are registered in for the purposes of entering the Blue League Championship Series. Note: registration is accomplished by synchronizing your Pokédex the first time after you enter the country. It's quick and easy, so register today. Definitions. Battle conditions. Battle conditions are the agreed upon rules for conducting a sanctioned Pokégirl battle. Challenger. The Pokégirl tamer who issues a challenge to a Pokégirl battle using league rules. Note that sanctioned league challenges may only be issued by Pokégirl masters licensed by the league. Pet owners may not issue league-sanctioned challenges. Tamers must be members of the league in good standing. Challenged. The Pokégirl master who accepts a formal or informal challenge to a Pokégirl battle. Sanctioned league challenges may only be accepted by Pokégirl tamers licensed by the league. Tamers must be members of the league in good standing. League. League is a shortened form of terminology referencing the Blue League. Prize conditions. Prize conditions are the agreed upon rewards for victory in a sanctioned Pokégirl battle. Please note that any prize wagered must be in the physical possession of the participants at the time of the league event, or the wager is not valid. League-sanctioned prizes may not include quests. Prize conditions typically are any of the following. Salvage. The victor gets to choose one or more of the loser's Pokégirls. Salvage may be by informed choice or random pick and must be agreed to before the battle commences. Salvage conditions may be modified during the battle, but only if all participants agree. Any disputes will be settled by league officials. Monetary reward. The amount must be agreed to by all parties before the battle commences. Monetary rewards may be modified during battle just like salvage conditions. Other prize. As above. Quests are not allowed as prizes in official league-sanctioned events. Warning. Any official Blue League sanctioned event will have all steps recorded by the Pokédex of one or more of all battling parties. Gym-level league events and all league contests will be recorded by the gym or contest judging team. However, this does not relieve you of the responsibility of recording all league events that you participate in. Badge awards will be recorded by the awarding gym. Badges may not be awarded by any other persons. Persons attempting to present badges not their own in order to register for a Pokégirl competition of any kind may be subject to stiff penalties. Badges cannot under any circumstance be transferred to another person. Persons reporting their badges stolen and later found to have submitted a fraudulent report will be expelled from the league. Non-citizens of the Blue League may be deported. Any such behavior will be disseminated to all other official leagues on or off planet that the Blue League is affiliated with. Failure to record any portion of a league event may result in the Blue League refusing to enforce the prize conditions of a Pokégirl battle and will result in the Blue League refusing to sanction said event. In the event of record destruction or the death of a battle participant or bystander, the league reserves the right to investigate any and all participants, including both tamers and Pokégirls. The Blue League cannot be held liable for any mental and/or physical damage resulting from this investigation. It is strongly recommended that if you are in an official Blue League event that you record the entire event with your Pokédex. You have been warned. Any sanctioned Blue League Pokégirl battle follows the following steps. Challenge. The challenger issues a challenge. This challenge must identify the prize conditions that he wishes at this time. The challenger may also attempt to set the battle conditions that he desires. Challenged acceptance. The challenged accepts the challenge. The challenged has the right to set the battle conditions. Battle conditions may include Pokégirl limitations as well as battle site determination. Any battle conditions set by the challenged have precedence. Please note that in a gym battle, the gym is the challenged party. If no battle conditions are set at this time, the battle is considered to be an unlimited battle, see below. Bargaining session. During the bargaining session, the participants may attempt to negotiate changes to the conditions of the battle. Remember, the challenger has precedence in the prize conditions and the challenged has precedence in the actual battle conditions. If an agreement cannot be reached, the battle will not take place. Final agreement. Both parties agree to the established conditions of the battle. Battle. The sanctioned battle takes place. Please note that all battles should take place no sooner than right after the final agreement stage and no later than is agreed upon by all participants. Remember, challenge first and then battle. The ease with which native Blue Leaguers have taken to these rules and the informal behavior which has evolved accounts for the mistaken concept that Blue League contests have no rules. In many cases, the first 4 steps of any League Pokégirl battle may be condensed into as little as 1 step, if all parties are in agreement. For example, Challenger. I'm going to kick your for salvage. Challenged. You're on. In the above example, all of the conditions for a Pokégirl battle have been met. Challenge has been issued and accepted, and the conditions for the battle, unlimited, have been set. A note on unlimited battles. Unlimited battles may involve as many as 6 Pokégirls per participant. Tamers may not enter the combat in an unlimited battle. Tamers may not be deliberately targeted in an unlimited battle. Grand Melee. A battle involving tamer combat and tamer targeting is a special case called a Grand Melee. Grand Melees are legal in the Blue League but are discouraged due to the high incidence of tamer mortality in Grand Melee combats. Badge award battles may not be Grand Melees as the tamer is being tested on how her Pokégirls work in a battle unless the tamer specifically states that he or she is pursuing the Laurel badge. In closing, remember that by knowing the rules you may be able to twist the conditions of a battle to your advantage. This is perfectly legal in the Blue League. Up to this, Riley date continued to marvel at Naruto's source resourcefulness. When he had said that a shinobi's first job was to learn how to gather data, he had not been kidding. Unfortunately, Naruto used most of his resourcefulness to constantly think up of new ways to torture his Pokégirls. During the after-dinner training, Naruto had assigned Riley a task to be accomplished. Get enough strength to cast Blizzard 5 times in a row without even being exhausted and to master it such an extent that she could cast it instantly. Easy enough in theory, practically impossible in practice. Added to that, not wanting to waste any time while on the road, Naruto had forced to run throughout the whole day with their gravitational, chakra weight seals on. Therefore, their current schedule is almost the same as when Naruto had been training Riley in the Aberdeen forests, with the running replacing the physical exercises like push-ups and the like. However, Riley realized that Vincelet had it far worse than she did. Although Vincelet was already quite a high level, being level 52 when she first joined the harem, it was not good for Naruto. He wanted all of his Pokégirls to be within a range of 5 levels with each other. Therefore, Vincelet was forced to work much harder than Riley. It seemed like Naruto's preferred method of removing weakness was to hammer at them until they went away. Therefore, Vincelet was subjected to harsh physical exercises while almost fully exposed to sunlight. She was still wearing her clothes. When Vincelet was on the brink of losing consciousness, Naruto would allow her to wear the robe he had given her. Think of the robe the members of Organization 13 from Kingdom Hearts 2 wear. Due to the enhanced durability, endurance and healing that all vampires had naturally, Vincelet would recover from the sunburn, as Naruto called it, quickly. After dinner, Naruto would leave Riley to her own devices while he would personally train Vincelet in order to get her to be as strong as possible. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on who you asked, Vincelet's skills were very similar to how a shinobi worked. Phase and Invis would be used to sneak up on enemies, while Fear Aura, which was like unleashing a lot of killing intent, Illusion, which was basically Genjutsu, and Nightmare Syndrome. When successful, the target sees their friends as their enemies and will even perceive all of their actions as aggressive or cruel, would be used to create havoc. Vincelet would then take advantage of the confusion and use her damage attacks to finish off her opponent. However, since Vincelet had been a feral for such a long time, the only attack that she possessed when she first joined the harem was Phase. After a week of non-stop training, Vincelet had managed to learn all of the attacks that were available to her. Unfortunately for her, simply learning the attacks was not enough. Naruto wanted her to master them just like he wanted Riley to master her ice attacks. In Naruto's opinion, the combination of Fear Aura and Illusion was just too good to pass up. Currently, all Vincelet was able to do with her illusion attack was to make an object that already existed and simply make it look closer or further away, while her Fear Aura was only able to make more gentle animals like deer run. Predators instead just viewed her as a threat. As a demonstration of how scary he wanted Vincelet's Fear Aura to be, he had tapped into the demonic part of his chakra and unleashed all of his killing intent on the poor vampire. Vincelet immediately fainted and her heart nearly stopped from the sheer terror that she had experienced. When she finally woke up, Naruto immediately apologized, but the vampire simply waved his apologies away, staring at Naruto in a look of pure adulation. Naruto had then explained that the level of illusion would be mediocre at best in his world. A genjutsu requires extremely good chakra and a very good imagination, but when utilized properly, can be a very deadly tool. Naruto said while shuddering at the memory of Itachi's Tsukiyomi. After spacing out for a few seconds, Naruto continued with his lecture. Vampires are naturally gifted with the illusion attack, so the part about good chakra is nullified. As for imagination, it can be worked on. However, when vampires cast an illusion, they only affect their target's sight. A good genjutsu affects all of the senses and most importantly, the mind. For example, I am sure you have heard of people being convinced that they have something stuck in their throat and constantly feel as though they are choking. That is due to the effect a mind has a person. Therefore, the ultimate aim of a genjutsu user is to fully control his opponent's mind. With that aim in mind, they do not target only their opponent's sight, but also hearing, touch, and smell, effectively trapping their victim in a world of their own creation. If a genjutsu is very powerful and the genjutsu cast is powerful enough, the victim will experience something called phantom pain. For example, if the victim that he has been stabbed in the heart, he will feel the pain of the stab and his heart will even stop if he thinks that it is a fatal wound. Vincelet's eyes widened at Naruto's explanation. To vampires, the illusion ability was merely one of slight convenience. None had ever thought to push its limits that far. But the power of phantom pain will not be accessible for quite a while. In the meantime, it is time for training, Naruto said as his eyes took on a gleam that boded trouble for the one who saw it. However, what amused Riley most was the fact that Naruto had recently taken to camping in the trees outside the Shichuka with a powerful genjutsu cast over himself. The reason for doing so? The recent addition to Naruto's harem. Being a Pokégirl with a high libido, Vincelet had taken to jumping on Naruto immediately after their late-night training, initiating a taming session every night. While Naruto certainly found the process pleasurable, this was still too much for him to take at once. Thus, he had disappeared every night, cloaking himself with a genjutsu so that Vincelet would not find him and brutally rape him, as Naruto called it. Unfortunately, Naruto still had to tame her Vincelet once every 2 days to prevent her from going feral, and that was when Vincelet would unleash all of her frustration on him. Riley got out of the bathtub and went to search for Naruto. After their first taming session, Naruto had formed an alpha bond with her and she now needed taming much more regularly than she had before the taming. Luckily for her, She had known Naruto long enough to know how to coax her master out of hiding. Naruto, Riley called out when she was outside the Shichuka. She was holding a big steaming bowl of ramen. I thought you would like a how bowl of ramen to keep yourself in the night. Suddenly, the bowl of ramen in her hands disappeared and Naruto was in front of her, handing her an empty bowl of ramen. Ah, that was good. I really owe you one. Naruto said as he beamed at her. You don't owe me anything. However, there is something that you can do for me. Oh really? What is it? I'll do it. Naruto replied while Riley smirked, glad that Naruto had fallen into her trap so easily. Well, you see, I have an itch that only you can scratch, Riley purred as she pressed herself into him. The next morning found Naruto and his hair at the breakfast table. Riley was looking extremely pleased with herself while Vincelet kept shooting the frost whelp dirty looks enraged that she had not gotten the shinobi to tame her the last night. Naruto meanwhile just sat in his seat, looking extremely uncomfortable at the situation. Finally, he decided to offer his arm to prevent Vincelet from continuing to glare at Riley. To his relief, Vincelet immediately broke off the one-sided glaring contest and latched onto Naruto's arm, sinking her canines into his arm and drinking his blood greedily. Apparently, because of the demonic taint in his chakra, it had altered his blood somewhat and it tasted different from normal blood. This had gotten Vincelet addicted to his blood and it was her favorite thing next to. After everyone was done, Naruto decided to do an experiment. Okay, I have something to say, so listen here. I'm sure that both of you have noticed the alpha bond formed due to the taming right. When both Pokégirls nodded, he continued. Well, have you noticed that our emotions can also be felt through the bond? He received 2 more nods. Well then, I have an experiment that I wish to conduct. I have a jutsu that I based off the Yamanaka's Shintenshin no Jutsu, mind transfer technique. It will link 2 minds of strong mental constitution together. While I am not sure about the exact strength of your minds, I am hoping that the alpha bond that we have will be enough to support the jutsu. If the jutsu fails though, nothing happens, so there will be no side effects. What I want to ask the both of you is whether you want this jutsu to be performed on you. While it would be very helpful in battle, your thoughts will be open for us to hear until you learn to control your thoughts. After a moment of hesitation, both Pokégirls agreed. Very well then. Shinkakuru no Jutsu, Heart Link Technique. Naruto cried out. After a minute, it was evident that the jutsu had been successful. I wonder if the jutsu is done yet. I do not feel any different. If Naruto can pick up my thoughts, maybe I should keep projecting thoughts at him. Naruto blushed deeply at what Vincelet's thoughts had been. You will do no such thing, Vincelet, Naruto said to Vincelet before he opened his mind to include Riley. Well, the jutsu has proven successful. We will train with this while traveling. Now, you girls have 10 minutes to get ready. After 3 more days of traveling, they finally reached Edge. When Travis had said that it was near, it was probably in comparison to other towns, seeing as Aberdeen was quite isolated. However, 10 days of traveling at shinobi speed was definitely not a short distance. Entering the town, he saw a sight that would probably make Tenten drool. There were swords being sold everywhere. People and Pokégirls walked around openly bearing weapons. There were even shops that dealt specifically in hilts, sharpening and the like, when normally all of these special services would be compressed into one smithy. Wandering around the town for a while, he saw a poster that caught his attention. Attention all weapons users. There will be a weapons competition on the 20th of May in the local arena. The prize is a special katana that has proved to be unbreakable. Send in your application forms by the 15th of May to compete. Naruto read out. Checking his Pokédex, Naruto found that it was the 12th of May. Releasing Vincelet from her Pokéball, he immediately relayed his command through the Shinkakuru no Jutsu. I want you to find out as much as you can about this competition. The people organizing it, whether it is a regular event, what are the conditions for taking part, who will be taking part and the like. Treat this as a recon mission. You are not to be seen. This will be your first test. Do not disappoint me. With a nod of understanding, the vampire cast an invis and vanished from view. Knowing that Vincelet would be able to find him through the Alpha Bond and the Shinkakuru no Jutsu, Naruto set off to find a good katana. Naruto eventually found a shop that sold high-quality weapons. Scrutinizing the katanas carefully, he finally reached for a nondescript katana. Unsheathing the sword, he found that also the hilt and the blade were plain, it was made of very good steel. Performing a few swings, Naruto found the balance of the sword to be perfect. It is quite amazing that you took such a long time choosing a sword and then ended up choosing such a plain-looking sword. Someone, a female from the sound of it, remarked. Continuing to examine the katana, Naruto replied without turning around. How good a blade is not dependent on its appearance. A sword can be studded with diamonds, but it is ultimately useless if it breaks the moment it is struck. As for taking a long time, a sword is a swordsman's life. It is simply not a tool for killing. It is an extension of myself, and I'll be damned if I let any part of myself be of inferior quality. Naruto received a chuckle as a reply. Do you find what I said humorous? Naruto asked. Oh no, not at all. It's just I have not seen a true swordsman for such a long time, and I find it amusing that I find one just when I had given up all hope. Naruto chuckled as well at the irony and turned around to face the person he was speaking, only to be shocked beyond words. Red hair, check. Violet eyes, check. Purple haori, check. White battle kimono, check. Katana strapped to the side, check. Could it be Kenshin-sensei? Naruto whispered. What did you say? The stranger asked, a little unnerved at Naruto's staring. Oh sorry, you just reminded me of a person I knew once. Naruto replied, the disappointment that he felt evident in his eyes and his voice. He was such a stupid person. After paying for the sword, he left the shop quickly so that he would not have to look at the Pokégirl that he now recognized as a Slicer again. Slicer, the swordswoman Pokégirl. Type. Very near human. Element. Normal fighting. Frequency. Uncommon Crimson League. Diet. Human diet. Role. Fencers, frontline fighters. Libido. Average. Strong Vs. Normal, magic. Weak Vs. Ghost, psychic. Attacks. Slash, sword wave, deflect, counter. Enhancements. Proficiency with any bladed weapon or anything longer than 1 foot. Evolves. Gladiatrix Round Stone, Valkyrie, Battle Stress Ronin, Normal, or Paraded Water Stone. Evolves from. None. Slicers appear to be like normal women with some small deviations. Their average height is between 4 feet 8 inches and 6 feet 1. Their hair colors are generally a random color, but generally within the primary, secondary or tertiary colors. More common human hair colors like silver, gray, brown and black are actually quite rare among slicers. Their irises are generally a solid color, with the pupils being a slightly darker variant of the iris color. This may throw people off at first, as most people are used to seeking black pupils in eyes. The main oddity amongst 30 of all slicers is that their arms and fingers may appear thin and delicate, but remain as strong as normal arms. This can sometimes be quite the surprise to opponents, who believe the thinner arms means they are weak. Slicers are adept at using any weapon that can be wielded with 1 or 2 hands, but most prefer using lightweight swords, such as rapiers, short swords or even daggers. When it comes to sword mastery, they are second to few, save their evolutionary sisters, Harowu and Arms mistresses. Unlike Amazonwas or Harois, though, they do not lose their fighting skill while feral. Instead, they lose confidence. A feral slicer is more likely to run if disarmed or caught off guard. The difference between the feralborn and domesticate-born is that the feralborn usually have to find a weapon. Most wind up with a branch, but some have been known to steal weapons from towns. Tamers can sometimes get a feralborn slicer to join them by offering a sword as a gift. Domesticates generally save up money and buy their own sword, but getting the weapon enchanted can be quite the turn-on for any slicer. If a slicer's weapon of choice breaks, she usually mourns it as most people mourn friends. Most ferals and quite a few domesticates will insist on a proper burial for the weapon. The only times when she does not request a burial is if she believed the weapon to be inferior, i.e., a branch she grabbed simply because it was close, but it only blocked a single attack before breaking. While their attacks can affect ghost or psychic Pokégirls, they take double damage from psychic or ghost attacks. Once a slicer, or any swordsman, achieves a certain level of mastery or skill, they can use a sword wave. This technique is similar to a vacuum cut. In layman's terms, it's a force that can cut or tear without the need of contact between solid matters. Sword waves can also be used to knock people out. Sword waves can be used with any weapon the user can swing, even if it is not a sword or even a traditional weapon. As Naruto left the shop, he could not help but reminisce about his past, especially the first time he had met his sensei in swordsmanship, Himura Kenshin. Naruto was now 16 and had been training for 1 year under what his friends had termed the Uzumaki training regime of hell. Tsunade had gotten worried about Naruto's obsession with training and had decided to send Naruto on an A-rank mission with Jiraiya as company in order to relax. It was a testament to how much Naruto normally pushed himself that an A-rank mission was considered relaxing to him. Naruto yawned as he pocketed the scroll that Tsunade had ordered the duo to bring to her. It was actually a very simple as the security was very lax. For someone who had sneaked into the Hokage Tower at the age of 12, this was nothing to him. The only reason why this had been an A-rank mission was the fact that the scroll was kept in Kumo, which was hostile to Konoha ninjas. Naruto suddenly became alert as he sensed a few chakra signatures converging on one weak chakra signature ahead of the duo. Looking at Jiraiya, Naruto noticed that the pervert had also noticed the chakra signatures. Giving an almost imperceptible in the direction of the soon-to-be battlefield, both Naruto and Jiraiya rushed forward, intent on help the poor person who was being ganged up on. When they finally reached the person with the weak chakra signature, they saw that they had been faster than the attacking ninjas as the civilian had not been attacked yet. He had red hair tied back in a ponytail and wore a purple haori over a white battle kimono. He also had a katana strapped to his side. Suddenly, 10 Kumo nin leapt out of the cover of the trees and dashed towards the civilian, intent on decapitating him for some reason. Naruto and Jiraiya were about to dash forward to help when they stopped, stunned at what they saw. One moment the civilian had just been standing there and the next moment he had appeared on the other side of the small clearing, sheathing his sword while all of the Kumo nins lay dead on the ground. I know you are out there, whoever you are. If you are not my enemies, then do not be afraid of being attacked by me. The man called out. Surprised at being spotted so easily since they were high-level ninja after all, the two Konoha nins looked at each other before they jumped down to land in front of the civilian. Now that they were closer to the civilian, they noticed that he had violet eyes and a prominent scar shaped like an X on his left cheek. Upon seeing the scar, Jiraiya gasped as he realized who was in front of them. Himura Kenshin, the Hitokiri Batuse. Ah, it seems like you of me. The newly identified Kenshin remarked. Nay, Ero Sennin, who is this guy anyways? Naruto asked. To his surprise, Naruto did not receive a bop on the head for calling Jiraiya Ero Sennin again. Himura Kenshin was a former manslayer of the Ishin Shishi, the Choshu faction, who fought at the beginning of the Meiji Restoration. He went by the name Hitokiri Batuse. The title implies he has mastered the technique of Batojutsu, sword drawing technique, studied in modern times as Iijutsu, and can draw his sword with lightning speed. Hitokiri was the title given to samurai assassins. He is the master of the legendary hidden Mitsurugi Ryu style, flying heaven honorable sword style, also known as ultrasonic sword style, an ancient sword style that is said to pit one against many. It is a sword art that is passed from master to apprentice, its masters inheriting the name of Hiko Seijiro. Hidden Mitsurugi Ryu's principles are based on utilizing godlike speed, or shinsaku, and precision to deal powerful blows that usually bring down foes with one shot. The swordsman must also be able to read techniques at an amazing pace as well as interpret emotions as a form of clairvoyance in order to accurately predict what an opponent will do. Combining those two elements with the speed and the precision allows Kenshin and Hiko to subdue opponents before they ever act. That is the power of hidden Mitsurugi Ryu. It is said that at the age of 14, Kenshin decides to join the revolutionary movements to restore power to the emperor. Within the first 6 months of his career, he kills over 100 people, and eventually became known as the Hitokiri Batuse. However, after the rebellion had ended, Himura Kenshin quit and vanished without a trace. Jiraiya finished. Kenshin looked very impressed at the information that Jiraiya had gathered about him. I suppose you would be Jiraiya of the Densetsu no Sannin. That would be the only person with a spy network to know all that about me. Naruto was slightly cowed by the person in front of him. He could not believe that Kenshin could be so powerful. Thus, he tried to put on a brave front like he always did. Are you sure you got the right person, Ero Sennin? How could such a wussy be so strong? I mean, come on, he's wearing a skirt for God's sake. Naruto cried out. Kenshin immediately turned on him. This is a battle kimono, you retard, not a dress. It is so a dress. Is not. Is to. Is not. And the two argued in a similar fashion before Naruto thought of a clever plan, to him, to solve the problem. Well then let's fight to settle it. If you lose, that means you're a wussy. Both combatants took on a battle stance. Naruto's form was sloppy, with numerous openings in his guard while Kenshin's form was perfect. Kenshin's right foot was placed in front of his left foot, his left hand holding the sheath while his right hand gripped the hilt of his katana, pressing the blade of the sheathed sword against the curve of the sheath. On some unheard signal, both combatants rushed forward, though Kenshin was infinitely faster than Naruto. Suddenly, Kenshin was right in front of Naruto as he cried out, Hidden Mitsurugi Ryu, Batojutsu Soryusen. Flying Heaven Honorable Sword Style. Art of Sword Drawing, Double Dragon Strike. Kenshin drew his katana with incredible, slashing at Naruto with the sword while he followed that up with a strike with his sheath. Naruto gasped as the sword sliced through his gut while the sheath collided forcefully against his skull, effectively braining. The gasp suddenly turned into a smirk as Naruto whispered, Bakuretsu Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Exploding Shadow Clone's technique, the clone suddenly exploded, throwing Kenshin off balance. Naruto immediately took advantage of the opening presented and emerged from the ground below Kenshin, having gotten in the ground when he performed the Doden, Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu Earth type, inner decapitation technique right at the start of the battle, and delivered a brutal uppercut, sending Kenshin flying into the air. Kage Bunshins immediately dropped from the trees where they were hidden in and tried to initiate the Uzumaki Naruto Renden. However, Kenshin foiled Naruto's plan by performing a hidden Mitsurugi Ryu, Ryumaisen Flying Heaven Honorable Sword Style, Dragon Howl Strike, sheathing his sword with God speed, producing a shockwave that dispersed all of Naruto's Kage Bunshin and sent Naruto, who had been charging towards him, crashing into a tree. Due to his advanced hearing provided by the Kyuubi, the shockwave had blown his eardrums to bits. The Kyuubi healed the wound in the end, but it still hurt like a bitch. Naruto struggled to his feet, equilibrium lost from the shockwave, and attempted to charge at Kenshin again. He stopped all motion as he felt cold steel pressing itself against his neck. Looking up, he saw Kenshin looking down at him, holding his katana at Naruto's neck. What surprised Naruto the most though was the change in Kenshin's demeanor. Gone was the cheerful civilian. In his place was a battle-hardened warrior who would shed blood with remorse. Why do you fight? Kenshin asked coldly. To become Hokage so that I can protect my precious people. Protect people with that low level of skill. Do not joke. All you will probably do is kill them with your incompetence. Naruto's heart sank as he realized that although he did not want to admit, he was weak. Because he was weak, Sasuke had been branded with the curse seal by Orochimaru. Because he was weak, he had allowed Sasuke to escape at the Valley of the End. Suddenly, images of Iruka lying dead flashed through his mind, followed by Sakura, Kakashi, and then everyone he cared about. No, he would not let them down. His Nindo was to not give, and there was no way that he was going to give up now. Kenshin watched the boy sink into despair and sighed inwardly. It seemed like he was just another of the gutless loud mouths that were everywhere. He was surprised when the boy suddenly lifted his head and glared at him, determination burning within his eyes. I do not care who you are. If you obstruct me from protecting my precious people, I will rip you apart. They saved me from my personal hell and prevented me from going insane and going on a killing spree. The least I can do is protect them until my dying breath. The boy snarled as a glowing blue ball suddenly appeared in the boy's hand. Ignoring the wound that was appearing on his neck, Naruto charged forward, Rasengan in hand. Too shocked by Naruto's seemingly suicidal move, Kenshin reacted only a second later and used the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu, Ryokansen Flying Heaven Honorable Sword style, Dragon Spiral Strike, where he took advantage of centripetal force to accelerate the draw, on in this case, the swing of the blade while simultaneously avoiding Naruto's assault, shifting directly into a counterattack. Unfortunately, he was too late to avoid Naruto's Rasengan and both combatants were hit by their adversary's attack. Naruto received a deep gash across his chest while Kenshin flew backwards and crashed into a huge boulder, breaking several bones in the process due to the force of the Rasengan. Jiraiya in the meanwhile looked on with pride as the match ended in a draw. Sure, Kenshin had used far from his true strength, but to hold his own against Kenshin even at that level of skill was truly impressive for someone who had been the dead last in his class. Moving over to Kenshin to check over his injuries, Jiraiya sighed in relief. Some bones were broken, but they would heal easily enough. That blonde is your student, is he not? Why did not check on him first? Kenshin asked. Oh, that Gaki. Don't worry about him. He's surprisingly resilient. He'll be up and about in no time at all. True enough, Naruto got up minutes later complaining about stupid swordsmen and stupid swords. Naruto spotted Kenshin lying on the ground and walked over to the Roroni wanderer. What he did next though shocked Jiraiya and Kenshin. Naruto bowed low and spoke in a humble manner. Kenshin, even I could sense you were holding back most of your abilities. Can you please teach me how to wield a sword like you do? I need the kind of strength that you possess so that I will be able to protect my precious people. Kenshin looked at Naruto and pondered hard. In all his years, he had never seen so much raw potential in a child. Added to that, judging by the determination that had shown in the boy's eyes, he would not slack off and would put his all into any training he received. Finally, and most importantly, the philosophy of hidden Mitsurugi Ryu is that a practitioner must protect those around him. He may use that lethal force for the protection of the people. When a student of hidden Mitsurugi Ryu understands this, he is ready to complete his training. Naruto already understood that principle extremely well. I will, but only one condition. Kenshin finally said. Naruto looked up, hope shining within his eyes. What is it? I'll do almost anything. Just continue being the way you are right now and do not let the cruelties of the real world change you. Naruto nodded somberly. He had first-hand experience on how cruel the world can be. I made it this long without changing, I'm pretty sure I can go longer. Kenshin smiled then. Alright, here, he said as he passed Naruto a katana. This katana is one of the few legendary katanas in the world. It is unbreakable unless it clashes with another of the legendary katanas. This is what I was in Kumo for. The Kumo nins were abusing the sword, using it for wanton slaughter. I know you will find a better purpose for it. Naruto nodded. I am going to use it to protect my precious people. Naruto declared. And thus, for the next 2 years, Naruto would receive training from Kenshin whenever he was not on a mission. Using the Kage Bunshin ensured that he mastered all the forms and techniques extremely quickly. However, just knowing the forms and techniques were not enough. Hidden Mitsurugi Ryu's principles are based on utilizing godlike speed, or shinsaku, and precision to deal powerful blows that usually bring down foes with one shot. The swordsman must also be able to read techniques at an amazing pace as well as interpret emotions as a form of clairvoyance in order to accurately predict what an opponent will do. Combining those two elements with the speed and the precision allows the user of the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu to subdue opponents before they ever act. That is the power of hidden Mitsurugi Ryu. Therefore, Naruto also had to undergo training to increase his speed and strength. His mind and eyes also had to be trained in order to be able to pick out details as well as to gain the ability of precognition. As Naruto's skill in swords grew, so did his reputation. Finally, he was feared throughout the world as the Jigoku no Uzumaki, Infernal Maelstrom, due to his ability to rip through overbearing numbers just like a hellish force of nature. Trained by only the best, Naruto quickly overshot his senseis and became one of the only 2 nins in the whole history of the shinobi world to be ranked as a SSS-ranked ninja. Finally, the 2 years had ended. Naruto met Kenshin in Training Area 44, also known as the Forest of Death, where the second part of the Chunin exam he had taken in part in 6 years ago was held. Naruto. Kenshin greeted. Naruto bowed his head in greeting as well. What did you want to meet me here for, sensei? You have been truly an excellent student to teach. It is now time for your final test. On this day, only one person shall walk away from this training area alive. Naruto blanched. No, wait, I reject the test. Stop this, Kenshin sensei. Naruto pleaded, but it was to no avail. Kenshin had already settled into the stance for the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu, Kuzu Ryuzen Flying Heaven Honorable Sword Style, 9-headed dragon. The 9-headed dragon was a formidable technique which utilized Shinsaku lit. God speed to the fullest extent, dealing 9 strikes to the most fundamental targets of swordsmanship: Karatake, Kesajiri, Sakajessa, Hidari Nagi, Migi Nagi, Hidari Kuriage, Migi Kuriage, Saka Kase, and Tasuki all at the same time. These points are the focus of the technique as they make up the basis of one's guarding stance, regardless of style or weapon. So with the Kuzu Ryuzen, attacking all 9 all at once, guarding and dodging becomes virtually pointless. There were only 2 ways to counter the Kuzu Ryuzen. One was to use a Kuzu Ryuzen as well, resulting in a Pyrrhic victory as both swordsmen would die at once. The second way was to use the hidden Mitsurugi Ryu Ugi, Amakakuru Ryu no Harameki, Flying Heaven Honorable Sword Style Secret, Heaven's Bridging Dragon Spark. The Amakakuru Ryu no Harameki is a Batojutsu that surpasses Shinsaku. This is the key to defeating the Kuzu Ryuzen. Because the Kuzu Ryuzen is a charging technique that cannot be blocked, an attack must be made before the Kuzu Ryuzen arrives, thus the true nature of the final technique. The Amakakuru Ryu no Harameki must be faster than a regular Batojutsu in order to hit the opponent. The secret behind the technique lays in an additional step with the left foot. This single step alone adds instantaneous acceleration and weight to the sword, changing the god-like speed of hidden Mitsurugi Ryu Batojutsu to beyond god-like speed. However, this extra step is difficult to take as one of the fundamental teaching of Batojutsu states that one should step forward with the right foot as to avoid cutting their own foot with the attack. As such, the additional step forward with the left foot can spell certain death for the swordsman, as it takes precise timing to coordinate, as to not lose any momentum while drawing. It requires the utmost concentration that can only be obtained by one's desire to live. There is another secret to this technique. If the initial strike is avoided or blocked, the force of the unusually fast slashing motion displaces the air around it, generating a vacuum in its wake and sucking the opponent in. As this happens, the body is spun around for a second strike, the previous action adding force and momentum to the swing, making the subsequent strike far stronger. This is the true power of the Amakakuru Ryu no Harameki. Amakakuru Ryu no Harameki is also so fast that its implementation can be successful even when the enemy's strike has actually reached the user's body. However, Naruto was reluctant to utilize any of the 2 methods. While he could perform the Amakakuru Ryu no Harameki successfully, it would result in Kenshin's death, which he wanted to avoid at all costs. Please, sensei, stop. Don't let it end like this. Naruto pleaded one last time. Kenshin was the one who had trained him, who had given him the ability to protect his precious people. They had shared many happy memories together as well, and Kenshin had made it onto Naruto's list of precious people. He could not do this. Naruto released his grip on his sword, placing his hands at his side, waiting for Kenshin to end him. Suddenly, a memory flashed unbidden into his mind. I do not care who you are. If you obstruct me from protecting my precious people, I will rip you apart. They saved me from my personal hell and prevented me from going insane and going on a killing spree. The least I can do is to protect them until my dying breath. If he died right now, he would be leaving behind all of those who cared for him. He would be breaking the promise he had made to protect his precious people at all costs. He could not die now. In order to live, he had to win. Hidden Mitsurugi Ryu Ugi, Amakakuru no Harameki. Naruto cried out as he charged forward. Time seemed to slow down for him. He slashed at Kenshin, watching as Kenshin managed to bring up his sword to block the katana. The second effect of the Amakakuru then took place, sucking Kenshin in while Naruto spun around, slashing for a second time at Kenshin's now unguarded side, and dealing him a mortal wound. Time returned to normal then as Naruto caught Kenshin's falling body. I'm sorry, sensei. Naruto sobbed as he watched his master die before him. Don't be sorry. Just use your power to protect. Kenshin trailed off as his life left his body. The heavens rained then, as though mourning the death of Himura Kenshin along with one Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto broke out of his memories just as Vincelet rose from the ground in front of him. Report. Naruto ordered. This is an annual competition organized by the committee of this town. Anyone will be joining in the competition. However, this year, a tamer and his slicer, both coming from a samurai background and the Edo League, will be taking part this year. This competition is a competition for Pokégirls, but humans can also take part. The only rules in this competition are that Pokégirls are only allowed to use weapon-related skills and no hidden weapons or poisoned weapons will be allowed. Death is commonplace in this competition. Very well, how about the structure of the competition? The elimination round consists of a gauntlet, where the last man, Pokégirl standing, will move on the next round. The brutal part about the elimination round is that the last man, Pokégirl standing, is to be the only one with the ability O stand. In other words, you have to cripple or kill your fellow competitors. From then on, it will be one-on-one battles till the end. Do you plan on taking part? Vincelet asked, eyeing Naruto's new katana. Yes, I'm going to enter the competition. It will be a good training exercise for me. Vincelet's sweat dropped. Only Naruto could view a competition where deaths were common as a good training exercise. Good job getting the information, by the way. Naruto praised. Do I get a reward tonight then? Vincelet asked coquettishly, sending images of Naruto and her doing certain stuff. Flushing a deep red, Naruto returned Vincelet to her Pokeball and headed out of town to find a place where he could use his Shichuka no Jutsu. Naruto muttered a Mokuten, Moku Bunshin no Jutsu, would release, would clone technique. His two Pokégirls watched in fascination as vines extended from each side of Naruto's bodies and formed two clones. These are my Moku Bunshin. They are able to do anything that a Kage Bunshin, except better. They also have the added benefit of being more durable. They will oversee your training from now on as I have to do my own training. Naruto said. Entering a training room that he had created specifically for himself, Naruto created thousands of Kage Bunshin and set them to fighting each other using Kenjutsu. He needed to hone his skills until he surpassed his previous skill level. It was time for the Jigoku no Uzumaki to show his face once again. Naruto stepped in the arena, amazed at how many people had turned up to watch the competition, as well as how many people had chosen to join the competition. There had been a total of 320 participants, which made for 16 different gauntlets, each with 20 competitors. Naruto made his way into the ring that he was assigned when he was stopped by the referee of the ring. I am sorry, but only your Pokégirl is allowed to enter. The referee said. Well, I am the one competing, not my Pokégirls. Naruto replied as he showed the referee his registration form. The referee then allowed him to enter the arena. Pokégirls nearby who had heard Naruto's words laughed at him as he passed. While humans were allowed to enter the competition, it took a truly foolish one in their opinion to go up against Pokégirls where he would be squashed like a bug. Meanwhile, Riley and Vincelet, according to Naruto's instructions, placed all of their money betting on Naruto to be the last one standing in his arena. Many people pooled their money, unable to resist the lure of quick and easy money. After a few minutes of waiting, the bell rang once, signaling for the competitors to get ready. Naruto slid into the stance for Batojutsu. Once the bell rang a second time, signaling the start of the battle, Naruto used his Shinsaku to dash past all of the Pokégirls while he slashed at them as he passed. They did not even know what hit them. A second after the bell rang, 19 Pokégirl corpses dropped onto the ground. Silence fell over the crowd at Naruto's feet. Sheathing his sword, he was too fast for blood to get on his sword, so he did not need to clean it. Naruto calmly walked down to where his Pokégirls stood like statues, staring at him dumbfounded. One similar thought crossed their minds. I am so glad I did not fight him when he had a sword. Meanwhile, the referee finally regained his senses. Winner, Uzumaki Naruto. It was very obvious due to this stammer that he was still very shaken up from Naruto's feet. The sound of the referee's voice broke the crowd out of their stupor and they began cheering madly for Naruto, utterly in awe at his skill. His Pokégirls meanwhile had decided to stop imitating statues and were walking around collecting the money won from the betting. No one dared to renege on their bet, fearing what Naruto would do to them if they did not pay up. After 2 hours, the matches had finally ended and the organizers had paired up the remaining contestants. Entering the ring, Naruto saw that he was paired up against a level 36 Gladiatrix. Gladiatrix, the arena fighter Pokégirl. Type: very near human. Element: fighting. Frequency: very rare. Diet: largely meat, bread and potatoes. Body can't handle strong spices. Role: warriors. Libido: low to average. Strong Vs: normal. Weak Vs: psychic. Attacks: slash, slasher, sword dance, focus energy, confuse, mirror of equity, broken castle, weapon repel, firm plate, miracle slash. Enhancements: enhanced speed x4, enhanced stamina x2, ambidextrous, cannot be sunburned, can summon a weapon once per day, if said weapon is broken, once per week. Evolves: none known. Evolves from Slicer, round stone. Unlike the Slicer, a Gladiatrix is never thin, unless starved, and usually has a few scars, though most have at least 15 or more. The Gladiatrix often tans by coincidence, not desire, and to the envy of many tanning aficionados, they never get sunburned. Their tan simply deepens until she has a deep bronze tan. After that, her tan simply lasts longer. A Gladiatrix is hardly concerned about her appearance, unless it's how fierce she appears. She loves the look of scars won in battle, and when she's itchy for a fight, she'll often rub one of her larger scars. Anything that can make her appear fiercer is a turn on. The most she'll do for her hair is wet it down so it doesn't get in her face. Other than that, she doesn't care about it so long as it can't be used against her. Of course, if she's busy sharpening her weapons, cooking or something else that requires her to be immobile, she'll allow others to groom her hair for her. Bathing is far more important to a Gladiatrix than grooming her hair. Since Gladiatrixes tended to work hard, they will often sweat, and the stink of sweat is perhaps the only thing she does not allow on herself or others. Most tamers of Gladiatrixes usually keep a water-type Pokégirl on hand to keep the cost of bathing a Gladiatrix down. Others stay by bodies of water. When it comes to actual fighting, a Gladiatrix is not picky about weapons, so long as she has decent ones, and being ambidextrous, she can wield two just as efficiently as one. She actually prefers to have two weapons. She can summon one a day, but what shows up is often random and it can't be a weapon that is in the possession of anyone else. If she can have her pick, she'll usually pick a sword and shield, two swords or even a trident and net. If a weapon that a Gladiatrix has summoned that day breaks, no more can be summoned until the next week, though whether this is a psychological restraint is uncertain. The Gladiatrix is not a very pleasant Pokégirl to face in combat. When she isn't sparring, she is brutal, relentless and merciless, and will not stop until their opponent is unconscious or deceased, or she is. Luckily, she considers any poke battles, gym battles or tournament battles to be sparring. However, because of their brutal habits, any tamer who wants to use a gladiatrix in legal poke battles or use a gladiatrix for any gym or tournament battles must have her weaponry enchanted to deal non-physical damage. In these battles, she is automatically disqualified if she attempts to summon weaponry, though surprisingly, 99 of all gladiatrixes have enough self-control to refrain from summoning weaponry when warned. Gladiatrixes like unseasoned food, largely meat, bread and potatoes. Tamers sometimes believe that it's because a gladiatrix likes to live without luxuries, but it's actually because a gladiatrix's body can't process strong spices well. Too much sugar, salt, pepper or any other flavoring spice, such as garlic or saffron, makes a gladiatrix physically ill. It seems preposterous for such a powerful Pokégirl, but a gladiatrix can be left bedridden for days because of too much salt on her food, and as such, she treats anyone who attempts to pull pranks like loose salt caps with open contempt. A gladiatrix should never eat any complex foods, like cake or anything else that has more than one form of spice or seasoning, and as it should go without saying, they should refrain from eating in fancy restaurants, as any number of spices may be on the food. If she needs to resort to eating berries, she will seek out ones that don't have a strong flavor. Because of her nastier nature, gladiatrixes have been rather popular in illegal battle rings and tournaments throughout the years. As such, any tamer with a gladiatrix is randomly monitored for any suspicious activities or sudden influxes of cash. The gladiatrix sneered as Naruto as she hefted her odachi, great sword. I don't know what you did in the elimination round, but I bet it was just a fluke. Such parlor tricks will not work on me, human. Naruto remained unaffected by the gladiatrix's taunt and just got into his battle stance. Are you going to fight or are you just going to stand there yapping all day? The gladiatrix growled angrily. The moment the bell rang, the gladiatrix lifted her odachi over her head and charged at Naruto. Naruto simply remained still while he examined the gladiatrix. From the way she was holding her sword, it was obvious that the gladiatrix was planning for a vicious overhead slash and end the battle quickly. However, he also noticed that the gladiatrix was putting more of her weight on her right leg, indicating that the gladiatrix would slash diagonally from her left to her right instead, making it harder to avoid the attack. Satisfied that he had accurately analyzed his opponent's intentions, Naruto shot forward with Shinsaku just as the gladiatrix began her swing. Crouching lower to avoid getting decapitated by the gladiatrix's odachi, Naruto spun while in motion to get under her guard, and using the momentum of the spin to accelerate his draw, Naruto drew his sword with lightning-fast speed while he cried out, Hidden Mitsurugi Ryu, Ryokansen Sumuji, Flying Heaven Honorable Sword Style, Dragon Flash Spiral. Using Shinsaku to dash past the gladiatrix, Naruto literally split the gladiatrix in two. The crowd once again cheered at such a display of swordsmanship while his Pokégirls collected the money from those who had been foolish enough to bet against him. His next opponent was a level 43 Tatman. Tatman, the runic swordswoman Pokégirl.